It's kind of an anomaly a little bit. We've got 13 kids right now on our roster that have Division I scholarships, and we have about another 4 that have D2, D3, or NAI opportunities to go on and play. It's a tough life lesson, but it needs to be learned that it's all about competition. If somebody comes in, you still got to compete with that person, for what you want. That's just how it is. Again, it's preseason hype. That's all this is. That's all we've been getting. We've got to do something about it.
Today I'm sitting with Coach Chris McDonald from the Basha High School Bears. Coach McDonald, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Thanks for doing this and spending time.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of us out there that are unfamiliar with who Basha High School is, where you're at in Arizona, why don't you kind of explain where you're at?
We're one of 6 high schools in the Chandler Unified School District, southeast part of the valley, about as southeast as you can get with Chandler before it abuts to Gilbert and Queen Creek. We have approximately 2,500 students enrolled here at Basha, and part of the central region, which is made up of Mountain Point and Desert Vista, Cesar Chavez and Mountain View, and then obviously us.
Yeah. And then you're in a highly competitive area. You have Chandler High School, Hamilton High School right around here, Perry High School. And just kind of looking at 2 years ago, you went 4-7. You lost on consecutive weeks, I think 42-0, 49-0 to Hamilton and Chandler. So fast forward, 2 years ago to today, and now there's articles in AZ Central claiming that you guys are going to be a powerhouse this year. You're the next Chandler powerhouse. So really, what's changed from 2 years ago up until today?
Well, I think that we've been able to keep some of the kids that are in our local community. Here at Basha, we've made it a school where at least here locally, kids want to be a part of. They want to be part of the school culture, high academic school. They want to be part of the football culture as well. We try really hard to work on valuing everybody, and all kids in our program. We're never going to be a very large school. We'll never be 4,000 students. And, with football, that plays a big part because now roster sizes are bigger. It's just simple math, typically 10% of the male student population at a high school plays football. So, you're dealing with attrition issues and things of that nature that maybe some others don't have to deal with. But we talk about we'll never be the biggest kid on the block, but that doesn't mean we can't be the best still and the most efficient, and with what we do. And I think over the last 2 years, we've got an influx of kids, and then obviously some great lower level classes that have come in, and just kind of the talent level on our rosters is increased tremendously. And again, it's preseason hype.
Yeah.
That's all this is. That's all we've been getting. We've got to do something about it.
Yeah.
There's times I don't really like getting compared to Chandler because those guys have won like 5 state championships in a row, and no one's beat them. So,
And yeah, you and I were talking yesterday. You let me sit in on your practice, and I was just talking to you about the other coaches in the area. And I think you were saying the head coach at Chandler High School hasn't lost a game.
He's never lost a game.
Yeah.
And so, it's a big difference between, what he's accomplished in that span and then what we've accomplished. And we want to get there, but, I think sometimes we got to check ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. So you mentioned culture that you're building at Basha. You've been here, I think, 4 years.
This is my 4th season.
4th season here. What is the culture you're trying to build here?
More family oriented. I think that's one advantage that we have being a smaller 6A school is that it's more of a family atmosphere, more of it's not a small town atmosphere, but kind of in that sense, there's not just masses of kids, and it's not overcrowded, and there's more individual more individual attention.
And you know, I was out at your practice yesterday, and there's some very impressive athletes on your team. You know, I know Damon Williams is getting a lot of attention, and they're rating him the #1 2024 football prospect. You know, so there's a lot of expectations individually for him. You know, you have some other big names that transferred over from Hamilton, and then Jeremiah Vessel that came in from Louisiana. So I guess, how has the team been able to come together and sort of mesh with some of these younger, new faces?
Well, it's a work in progress. We got pieces, you know, we got new pieces, we got older pieces, if you will, or kids that have been in the program longer. And it's our job as coaches to make sure that we put the puzzle together correctly, you know. You know, speaking for some kids that have already been in the program, yeah, we had some top players move in, and I mean, I'm sure from a individual standpoint, you know, there was some disappointment because, you know, now's their time, or they thought that it was their time, and now you got some new blood coming in, and it just makes it that much more difficult to get on the field. And so we've got to navigate through that and make sure that those kids understand that they've been loyal to the program, and you know, we've got to make sure that they're still a strong piece of what the success of the team is or is going to be.
And you know, you have these talented young kids, and you know, Power 5 prospects, you know, top individual prospects, but for the vast majority of high school football players, they're not going to play in the NFL. You know,
Right.
A very limited amount are going to play in college. And so I think from the standpoint of these new talented kids are coming in, you're still learning competition, right, and being the best you can individually. So I think there's a lot more to high school football than you know, just pursuing
Wins and
the
losses,
NFL.
and yeah. I mean, it's a tough life lesson, but it needs to be learned that it's all about competition, you know. And if somebody comes in, you've still got to compete with that person, you know, for what you want, you know. That's just how it is. If I'm not doing the job correctly, or if my bosses don't think, they can easily replace me with somebody they feel is going to do a better job.
Yeah.
You know, I can't sit and sulk about it.
Yeah.
Like you know, and so that's where these kids learn that. They learn that now, you know, and there's you know, 3 different ways or 3 different options they have really. One is to, you know, cowboy up, get after it. Another one is to sulk and play victim, and the other one is to sulk and play victim and then look back and go, that wasn't the way to handle that, and then look for option 1.
Yeah.
You know.
So you know, let's talk a little bit more about the newcomers. So Cole Martin and Deshaun Buchanan, and then also Jeremiah Vessel. So where are those guys going to play?
In the secondary, primarily in the
Yeah.
secondary. We're going to be able to move them all around in the secondary, and then really, you know, the wide receiver group as well. We're going to be able to move them around. You know, we want to be able to. We don't want to make them stationary, where our opponents have an opportunity to game plan for where they think they're going to be. You know, those guys are tremendous athletes, tremendous, obviously, defensive players. Day has more experience on the offensive side of the ball as well. He's a tremendous running back. And Cole and Jeremiah are, you know, they're still learning that part of the game. You know, I can't speak for Jeremiah's, you know, past couple years on the offensive side of the ball. I know that he was a return guy, but he's acclimating well. You know, he's a guy you want to get the ball in his hands. I know for a fact Cole, I don't think has ever played offense in high school. So, you know, can he get the job done? Of course he can, you know, but that's still a learning process for any kid.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, Day-Day's another young man will be going both ways too.
And so, you know, looking at kind of your background, you know, you before Basha, can you kind of talk through? I know you're at Hamilton, and then
I was at
coached
Hamilton.
at Maricopa as
I was
well.
at Hamilton for 8 years, from '06 to 13, 14. Kind of cut my teeth there. Was extremely lucky to be in a program like that, like first high school job, to be in a program like that under the coaches that took the time to help not only coach players but coach coaches and myself, younger guys that have aspirations. Extremely privileged to be with those type of guys, including the head coach, Steve Bellis, but then obviously all the other assistants that I had the opportunity to coach with all taught me a lot, and then got my first head job at Maricopa High School, was able to cut my teeth there. I really enjoyed my time there. I had some really good athletes to work with there, and some kids that, were able to kind of get on the radar a little bit, last night, one of my former players, just had an absolute great game for UTEP. He's a starting wide receiver. I mean, he's, and so those types of things, I reflect on, and it was fun. And then, to come back home in terms of being in the Chandler School District, was something I couldn't pass up at the time.
Yeah. You mentioned, your former player at UTEP, and a lot of kids are working hard on social media to kind of put their names out there. And we were talking yesterday about, these other programs, because Arizona has open enrollment, and that just occurred in Florida too. I think you were saying that Florida's open enrollment now, and we were talking about, the IMG academies, those kind of programs and how they differ from kind of your traditional high school football. And you really brought up some good points, I think, and maybe kind of touch on that. If you're a kid, considering, hey, I want to go to IMG or my local high school, why would you say your local high school?
Well, I think when you have some of these top-notch programs like IMG, and I don't want to badmouth them, I don't know too much about them, but I just know, obviously, their vision and their scope, you're missing out on the high school experience, and if you're able to get, especially in this part of the country, the schools out here play really good football. There's tons of colleges that come through a plethora of schools here in the Valley, especially on the east side and on the west side too. That west side football's gotten a lot better as well. And, in my mind, it's more, you're more competing with other local high schools for kids. I think that it depends on, what your aspirations are and where you're kind of located sometimes, but I think out here, especially where we're at in this mecca of Arizona high school football, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of really good talent, and it's only getting better and better and better and better. Every 5 years you can kind of see a level up, if you will.
And you've had the opportunity in your past coaching stops to, play against the Bishop Gormans, play against, teams in Florida, Texas, kind of California, all over. So how would you kind of put Arizona high school football up against kind of these other well-known areas?
Well, I think that Chandler can compete with anybody in the country. They're a top 10 program in the country, I think 2 years in a row. Hamilton's had a lot of success beating out-of-state opponents. They play Bishop again this year, and we'll see how that goes. But recently, they've done extremely well. I know Higley's had out-of-state games and have won, and Pinnacle as well, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton, but seem to stack up really well, and it's only going to get better. I mean, look, Maricopa County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country, and it's been that way for 10, 15 years. So again, with that comes more people, becomes more football players, which levels up the landscape here in the state.
I want to talk about Damon Williams Jr. He's a sophomore this year, and last year as a freshman, he was your starting quarterback, it's pretty amazing when you think about, just the difference between a freshman kid and a senior. There's a lot of maturity that happens in those 4 years, both physically and mentally. So, to be able to be the starting quarterback as a freshman, I think is really special. So can you kind of talk about Damon and who he is as a kid and an athlete?
Well, we all, I've said it before, we can all put on the film and see what type of player he is. But, the background of all that is how he prepares, as well. These are the things that people don't see. He's a 4.0 student in the classroom. He's a great brother, great son to his family. He's a great student here at Basha, obviously. He's a great teammate to his peers. He's a great peer to all the other students here at the school. Like, he's a top-notch kid. He's top-notch human too, and he gets it. He's really wise beyond his years. Right? We have a couple of those type of kids in our program that are, their age is whatever it may be, but they don't really necessarily think like that. Mm-hmm. They're able to see the big picture, which for a high school kid to see the big picture, that doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't happen a lot. So, for anybody really, we think of the now.
Right. Yeah.
So, he's got an extremely high football IQ. Yeah. He's a coach's son, so that kind of comes with the territory.
And I know he's had some visits and offers from some pretty top-notch programs, which is pretty exciting as a freshman, now going into a sophomore season. And looking at the NCAA, where a lot of these kids have their sights on, the NCAA has recently changed their rules on how athletes can be compensated with endorsement deals and social media avenues. How is that changing the landscape of college and high school football?
Well, I can't speak for college, how it's going to change that. My personal opinion is obviously the larger programs are going to be able to support and market kids more from a financial standpoint, mm-hmm. And I think that's going to become part of the recruiting pitch from now on is, our kids, we're able to bring in this amount income in a year and compare it to others and whatnot. I think for high school, you're going to see a lot more kids that are going to graduate early, mm-hmm. So that, if they their senior year, they graduate in December, and what would be their second semester or spring semester of their senior year, they now have an opportunity to, make money for themselves or family or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's quite different from our years in college.
But it's the rule.
Yeah.
Why would they not take advantage of it? Like if we could, we would do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm still trying to, go back, and I was on the media program, so surely there's $50 out there for me somewhere. Tell me about the straw hat. Every picture I seem to see you, and you're not wearing it today, but you got the straw hat. Kind of, you can't see your eyes.
Oh, I gotta protect my skin.
Where'd that come from?
Well, I don't know. I'm, obviously fairly, light, and so the sun and me don't mix. Yeah. My, skin cancer has been an issue in my family, so I've had to do the best to kind of prevent that.
Looking at your playing days, talk to me about that. You're local. You went to Corona del Sol.
Yeah, was local. Went to Corona del Sol, graduated in '98. Played football, basketball, and baseball. Played football my senior year. Ended up being my most passionate sport, I guess I would say. And then went on and played at Mesa Community College for 2 years back when they had JUCO football, and it was a lot of fun. It was really competitive. Had an opportunity to play with a lot of kids that went on and played major Division I football, and then I walked on at ASU for a bit and graduated and did the old get the job and the norm, if you will, of trying to make as much money as you can and chase a dollar, and then felt that wasn't my calling, so kind of had to change gears. Got back into education.
Yeah, and I think it's a good fit for you, just seeing how the kids respond to you yesterday. And I was talking to your quarterback's coach.
Calderon.
Just talking about leadership and what is leadership. And on a football team, it has to be
Player-led.
Player-led. But I think at the same token, kids want to play for their coach. We've all had coaches that we don't want to play for. So, what's your style of coaching with these kids?
I think I'm a player's coach. My number one goal is to earn their trust, not through, and not earn their trust and respect through my actions and not through fear or what it used to be, And once they know you care, they care about what you say.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest thing is the relationship piece. Again, once they know you care, then they understand what the expectations you have for them and why they need to meet them.
Yeah. So 5 years from now, looking ahead 5 years, where do you want to see Basha high school football?
The top programs in the state, a destination school that's known as a healthy football program.
Yeah.
Where I would want the colleges to know when they come here they're going to get a well-rounded student athlete.
Mm-hmm.
They know they don't have to worry about academics or behavior or character or anything of that nature. I want it to be a school where kids locally want to be a part of, especially here, like within our boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
With a lot of competition. I would want it to be a school that the faculty and every support staff here on campus is proud of and proud to represent. And then, obviously a program that's recognized nationally or in certain areas of the country,
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're well on your way. Just to make sure I don't miss any of the student athletes on your team, kind of, we talked about Damon, we talked about a little bit about Cole, Jeremiah. Who are some other some of your other leading athletes on your team?
Well, you got guys like James Durand, who's really highly recruited. Wyatt Milkovic, who's really highly recruited. Another 2024 kid, Miles Lockhart, highly recruited. At receiver, two 2024 kids, Bryson Dedman and Mason Arden, are going to be phenomenal kids that go on, or have the opportunity to go on and play at the next level as well. Jackson Browning is a returning starter who was fourth in the state in tackles. Fantastic kid, fantastic student. He'll have an opportunity to go on and play. And then really you got some foundational pieces that a lot of people don't talk about. Ty Robinson is a senior. He's going to be able to go on and play somewhere. He's a fantastic kid, fantastic leader. Been in the program for 4 years, developed himself into a really good football player through a lot of hard work. Ryan Wheaton, Braden Ossio are returning starters on the offensive line that again have molded themselves into really good high school football players. Cole Irvine, who had to sit out all last year, is another kid that'll be, really he can be an anchor of the offensive line with James. He's another big kid that worked extremely hard in the last 2 years to develop his body, get stronger while losing weight, and extremely mobile out there. He's going to have a fantastic year. I don't want to forget people. Josh
That's a lot of names.
Josh
got a
Sink,
lot of kids.
one of our senior tight ends. He's injured the first 5 weeks, but was, I'm really, really anxious to see him get going and have a good high school senior year as well. Ryan Blum's a kid that'll play game 6. I think he's one of the top centers in the state right now. Cade Price will be starting at center, and the time being is a sophomore that'll be playing varsity football. Would come up during times last year as a freshman, and so he's we've got a lot of kids. We have, it's kind of an anomaly a little bit. We've got 13 kids right now on our roster that have Division I scholarships, and we have about another 4 that have D2, D3, or NAIA opportunities to go on and play. And so you're talking, a roster that's pretty inundated with kids that have an opportunity to go on and accomplish their goals, once high school ends.
Yeah. So fast forward to December. That's when the state championship game is, right? Mid-December, somewhere around there. A lot of people are saying Basha High will be competing in the playoffs and potentially have a shot at the state championship. What are you telling your kids how to handle those expectations and how to
worry about us, worry about O'Connor, right? If you we got to focus on the process and not the result. Like that's how it works.
Yeah.
We got to focus on the days of preparation leading up to Friday night, not Friday night itself.
Yeah.
But the days leading up to it, right? And then that'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
The result. It's hard for anybody, let alone high school kids, being patted on the back all the time and told how good they are, to kind of fall in that trap. And we don't want to fall in that trap.
Yeah.
And because that's what it is. And preseason hype is exactly that. Preseason hype. You don't get trophies in the preseason. We talk about that all the time. We talk about our 2021 team. We haven't done anything. We haven't even played a game. And so on paper, yeah, it looks nice. It looks really nice. But these kids. Again, we have another starter in Jack Blyer. He's a sophomore. We have 12, 13 kids that are all juniors and below playing. That's still a lot of young kids out there trying to get it done against kids that are older than them, and so they've got to raise their level of play, obviously, at an age that a lot of their peers probably aren't playing at the varsity level. Probably some are, but not a lot are.
Yeah.
It's different.
All right, so let's close with this. So I might try and put this in that hype video if you just look at this camera. And if you have like a message you always tell your kids, like before a game, like what do you tell them to kind of get them focused and on the path?
Circle of concern, circle of influence. Talk about circle of concern, for this week, maturity, discipline, preparation, focus, intensity. That's our circle of concern right now. Everything else is noise, like distractions. Don't focus on any of that. Focus on our circle of concern and how we go about our business this week, and let Friday take care of itself.
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Coach. Good
Thank
luck
you.
on Friday night.
Appreciate it.